who is it that has built this massive Leviathan, this big government? Of course, the Republicans have too, but who really is invested in this? The Democrats, right? The left, right? And yet they're the ones who keep threatening to shut down the government and blame the President of the United States. Now, folks, here's the deal. The elections are over. There aren't new elections for 2 years or so. Every time the government is shut down under a Republican president or with the leadership of Republicans in Congress, we gain seats. Again, who is it that's invested in this massive bureaucracy? Department, agency, programs, units, divisions, regulations. Supposedly, the Democrats, the left. I want to give some advice to the president and his staff over the airwaves here. It's time for a very thoughtful, compelling address to the nation. An address to the nation, 20 or 30 minutes in length, in which you, Mr. President, you take the high road and allow the media to keep biting at your heels like chihuahuas. And explain to the American people that the Democrats simply will not help you secure the border, that the Democrats simply will not help you prevent illegal aliens from pouring into the country, many of whom are violent criminals, and that you have a responsibility as the commander-in-chief to protect this nation. And because the Democrats don't take their equal responsibility of funding this as seriously as you do, that this is the only way that you have as a constitutional matter to force the issue. And you can cite past presidents, particularly past Republican presidents. You're dealing with a rogue Democrat Party that is prepared to tear down this country in order to empower itself. You're dealing with a rogue media that roots against you every step of the way and even goes with phony stories, and we'll get into that in a minute. And you can explain, as Byron York has done in his column today, that in 2006, the House and the Senate voted for a law to provide fencing, 2 layers of deep, long fencing, 700 miles of the border. It specified areas in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And the overwhelming number of Democrats at the time voted for it. 283 votes in the House, 80 in the Senate, including, as York points out, Schumer, Ron Wyden, Dianne Feinstein, and a whole bunch of leftists in the Senate and the House in order to get to that number. Sherrod Brown, another example. And then in 2007, when the Democrats took control of Congress, they just defunded it all. The president can make the case. And it's not only the right thing to do, it's the politically right thing to do. As a matter of fact, not just when it comes to the wall, he and the Republicans ought to flood the appropriations field with their priorities. Their priorities. Supporting the United States military and so forth. And be prepared for a shutdown of 2, 3, 4 weeks. You know, even members of the Freedom Caucus say, you can't do that, you can't say shutdown. This is the only tool we have. It is the only tool we have. And when the president gives this speech, I wish he would, he should also have a chart or two showing the massive accumulated debt. That's over $21 trillion. And the unfunded liabilities that are now at about $260 trillion. Because if he doesn't do this, nobody's going to do it. The media are in the back pocket of the Democrats. The Democrats want to drive down the society in order to remake it into some kind of a radical egalitarian paradise, which of course is hell. And Mitch McConnell only cares about getting through one budget year after another with massive new spending. We've had unbelievable spending with the Republicans controlling Congress and the White House. Mitch McConnell keeps undermining this presidency by sending the President of the United States these horrific spending and borrowing bills. And yet, our priorities, which are national security and law enforcement and so forth, they're not the priorities. I'm trying to do the best I can here. We're working with the Democrats. Don't work with them anymore. Show them strength. Show them strength. I don't know any other way around this. The president apparently said, it's in a new book, that basically he's a superior president to Ronald Reagan. Okay, let's prove it. Prove it. Do what Ronald Reagan did 6 times and won by massive landslides, popular elections, and the Electoral College. Go ahead and do it. Prove it. I've got no problem with that. The American people will support the president on this if it is well articulated and well considered. Don't shoot from the hip. I might have a partial shutdown of the government. Be very, very strategic. Be strategic and on message. You call McConnell in. You call Paul Ryan in. You say, look, this is a lame duck Congress. And now's the time to get these things done, because when the Democrats take over the House, they're only interested in a coup. That's all they care about. Open borders, massive spending, and a coup. And we still have time to act. We still have time to act, and we should. I don't know why we fear this so often. The politics show that it doesn't hurt us. And as I said, there's not an election for 2 years. Now, of course, the media will attack the president and the Republicans. What do you expect? What do you expect? It's a progressive media. It's an ideologically driven media. We know this. And by the way, as a footnote, there's all kinds of things going on and being planned to use modern technologies to compete with the ideologically progressive media. And I suspect in 10 or 20 years, no offense, but cable TV will be on its back. I'm not attacking, obviously, Fox. I'm just saying, as an industry matter. As an industry matter. You know, ESPN lost, what was it, Mr. Producer, 1 million or 2 million subscribers in a year? This past year? It was enormous. It's enormous. So there is some hope in that regard. You don't have to put up with Jim Acosta for the rest of your life. But this is what I think needs to be done. We need to flood the field. We need to go on offense. The president has the ability to speak to the American people in a well-crafted, very thoughtful, strategic speech about our priorities, the priorities of the American people, including the wall or a double fence or whatever is necessary to protect the American people. The people see an invasion. The people know that scores of these individuals are criminals. The people know that 80 to 90% of them are military-age men. And no nation wants to put up with that, even if the Democrat Party does. In fact, something I found very, very interesting here, if I can pull it up, which of course I can't right now because the computer's dead. But over at the Daily Caller, there was a poll done in Mexico. And 7 out of 10 Mexicans are really opposed to this invasion or this caravan that came through Mexico and seeks to come into the United States. 7 out of 10. Now, you're not going to hear that on MSNBC. Instead, they bring a race-baiting professor on there on a regular basis by the name of Michael Eric Dyson and others who claim that whatever Trump does to try and secure the border, number one, he caused it. Number two, he's a racist. Number three, he's violating the law. And I'll tell you another little secret. Any one of these cable channels, any one of these network channels, can bring in any professor or any lawyer or any former federal prosecutor to say whatever they want, because they already know what they believe. And so many of these individuals Many, many of these individuals are chosen because they know in advance what their ideology is and the message they're going to push. Why do you think Jeffrey Toobin is a legal analyst, quote unquote, on CNN forevermore? Because he's a left-wing hack, that's why. And you can see it throughout television. It's a fellow by the name of Representative Joaquin Castro. He's a lightweight, but he comes out of Texas, and, you know, they keep saying he's presidential material. I mean, everybody who's out there is presidential material as far as the Democrats are concerned. And Obama showed the whole world how somebody with no substance, with a hard left ideology, minimal experience, to become president of the United States. And speaking of MSLSD, here's what he said last night. Hat tip, Breitbart, cut 10, go.
Well, like a lot of Americans, I was horrified to see women and children. These are folk, babies in diapers.
Right, stop with the word folk. These are folk. Babies in diapers, barefoot, being gassed. Go ahead.
And I think Americans were horrified at the idea of agents of the United States government making a decision to use tear gas on kids that are 2 or 3 years old.
I am sick and tired of demagogues like this lying about who we are, lying about the Border Patrol, lying about law enforcement, lying about the American military, lying about the American people. We are the finest people on the face of the earth, bar none. Bar none. We have men and women in Afghanistan. You think they're on vacation? In Syria, in Iraq. Not this jerk. Not this jerk. He's not guarding the border. He's not even guarding a 7-Eleven. Just another hack. These leftists are tearing our country down. They are unpatriotic. They are un-American. That's who they are. Our Border Patrol is not gassing 2- and 3-year-olds and kids in diapers. They're trying to push back a horde, a mob. They would do the same thing in the United States should such an occasion be called for. So first we get the racism. And you know what? You're all racist and you can never wash it off. That's the way it is, according to the left. Moreover, you're not allowed to secure your border. And the Border Patrol is not even allowed to protect itself. They undermine the cops. They want to take your Second Amendment away. What the hell kind of society would this be? Who the hell are these fools? And yet people elect them and elect them and elect them. You've got the hard left in this country. You've got kids coming out of colleges and universities, not all, but too damn many, who are brainwashed to hate their own country. I've never seen anything like this in my life. The most fantastic country on the face of the earth, a thoroughly diverse country, a free country, where people can go into any supermarket in this country and purchase virtually anything, anytime. Where the vast majority of homes have automobiles and TVs and all the rest. Such a horrible country this is. Look around the world. You want to see horrible countries? You want to see racism? You want to see racism, Professor? You want to see racism, Mr. Castro? Those people running south of the border towards us. You told us they're leaving. They're running because they fear for their lives. Nobody's running from the United States to south of the border because they fear for their lives. These are lies, and they are repeated, and they are constant. And these people are invited on MSNBC, and they're invited on CNN. They pick the lowest of the low to make the most outrageous statements about the American people. And you want to know why? Not only are they progressive ideologues who literally despise this country, which is why they want to fundamentally transform it, but because CNN and MSNBC have figured out they don't need a big audience. They go after a niche audience. They're going after the radical left audience. They fight over the same audience. And the more absurd and radical and extreme they can be, the better. The better. These things that they say about you and me and all of our fellow citizens, these things that they say about our institutions, these things that they say about our history, Do you think Professor Dyson could say these things virtually anywhere else in the world? No. A tenured professor. Easy life. He's on Easy Street. And then Bernie Sanders. This is the mix. You got the hardcore leftist old commie. Cut 11, go.
And what that book is about is what I and other progressives have been doing over the last 2 years, to bring people together, not only in opposition to Trump, but to create an agenda that makes sense to farmers in Iowa and in Nebraska, where we are coming together.
What does Bernie Sanders know about farmers in Iowa and Nebraska? He spent his entire life in New York City and Vermont and Moscow. Go ahead.
Around ideas that work for all of us. What does that mean? We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people.
Stop. We guarantee health care to all people. It's a matter of federal law. He's a liar. But on the hard left, they must lie. And what he also means by that is all the chumps out there who are prepared to what? Surrender their own health care that they pay for and work for and they've chosen? And you have fewer and fewer choices, don't you? There's less and less competition as a result of government. Go ahead.
Shows the American people want a Medicare for all single-payer system.
A Medicare single-payer system. Is that what you folks want? Who's going to be in charge of that? What geniuses are going to run that? People at the VA? People at the Agriculture Department? People at the Interior Department? They can't even control our forests. They won't even control the border. And yet they say, we're going to control the air and the water. We're going to control the sun and the heat. And now we want to control all of your health care. It's not enough that they got Obamacare. They want it all. And they'll never stop. That's the point. They can't stop. Because they always have ideas. And when you're unmoored from a constitution that limits the power of these politicians, the ideas just go on and on and on. And when actual human beings get into the way, they roll them. They roll them. Right, China? Right, Russia? Right, Iran? Right, Cuba? Right, Venezuela? Right, California? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.